I'm Dwight Drummond. Tonight, for the second time in the past 2 weeks, a GTA teen has been shot and killed.
I mean, from elementary school, we're good friends. I just feel bad for her family.
Unfortunately, she did pass at the scene.
Well, we've learned about the 14-year-old victim, and the search for her killer is now underway. Plus,
it was an honor of a lifetime to lead the party of Sir John A. Macdonald and Confederation.
I'm terribly sorry to hear that he's gone.
It was hard to peg him. Where is he standing on things?
O'Toole ousted. We have details on the vote that ended his short stint at the helm of the federal Conservatives. And
it's going to be a highly coordinated, multi-day cleanup, and we are ready to tackle this head-on.
I'm not a driver and I don't have to shovel, so it's okay by me.
The city gets ready for another blast from Mother Nature. We have live reports coming up. A 14-year-old girl is dead, the victim of a shooting that has shaken her Malton neighborhood, the same community that was the scene of a deadly 2019 shootout. Hora Morelli joins us live from the building where the young girl lived on Darsal Avenue in Farah. You've now learned the identity of the victim.
That's right, Dwight. Sources have confirmed to CBC News that the young girl is Tafash Riley. They're describing her as a kind young girl, someone who loved basketball and who lived in the building just behind me here. Now, police are calling this a homicide investigation, but they say there are still a lot of unanswered questions as to how this young girl ended up with a gunshot wound in the stairwell in the building that she called home.
Bullet holes and debris inside the wall of the stairwell. The apparent aftermath of last night's violence. Police were called here just after 9 p.m. When they went in the building, they found the 14-year-old girl who'd been shot. Paramedics tried to save her, but she died. Today, as news emerged of the shooting, shock and sadness among people who live here.
It's really sad, things like this shouldn't happen, And a young person, and, have a full life to go,
Things are getting from bad to worse, We don't need that right now.
Police were seen canvassing the building today, going door to door to try to speak with anyone who might have seen or heard what happened. Investigators say they're not ruling out any possibilities as to what happened in that stairwell.
They're currently investigating this as a homicide. It's a suspicious death. However, they're still unclear as to the circumstances of why she was in the stairwell or what transpired.
Just 2 years ago, a 17-year-old boy was shot dead on this same street, and 5 others injured. And last year, another teen was shot and injured nearby. Last night's violence, yet another tragedy the community must grapple with.
You have a community now that's mourning her loss, and family and friends. So I think, the span of grief that will be felt for today and a while to come is going to be extensive.
The Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board today confirmed Riley was a grade 9 student at this school. It issued a statement saying, "The board is saddened to learn about the tragic loss of life of a member of our Ascension of Our Lord Catholic secondary school community. As a Catholic community, we pray for the young woman, her family, and friends."
I just feel bad for her family.
These boys say they knew Riley from a young age.
When I heard about the news, my friend told me, and I was very sad. I was about to cry. But then I didn't believe him, but then I seen the news, and I'm like, no way, my childhood friend gone forever.
Now, Dwight, as you could hear there from the voices of those young men who knew this girl, this death has had a tremendous impact on so many members of this community. The Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board says it has a support team on hand that includes social workers. They told me a prayer was held today for this young girl, and the flag at the school remains at half-mast. Now, when it comes to this investigation, police are still looking for anybody who may have seen or heard what happened. They're looking for dash cam footage or any other surveillance footage that may be able to help them piece together just what happened to this 14-year-old girl.
It's a terrible tragedy out there in Malton. Thank you for that, Farah. Aaron O'Toole is out as leader of the federal Conservative Party. The majority of his MPs chose to remove him in a secret ballot vote. It comes after a group of them signed a notice that triggered the leadership review. The question now is how the party moves forward. Hannah Thibodeau reports.
This afternoon, I stepped down as leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition and leader of the Conservative Party of Canada following a Reform Act vote in our caucus.
Months after losing the election, Conservative MPs chose to oust their leader. 62% of the caucus said Aaron O'Toole should be replaced.
I pledge my support and unwavering loyalty to our next leader, and I urge everyone in our party to come together and do the same.
A number of caucus members who felt that in order to pull this disparate bunch together, we needed to start fresh, and that Aaron wasn't going to be able to do it.
This is not a good day for our movement. This is not a good day for Aaron.
O'Toole is a four-term Ontario MP who led the party into the 2021 election. He faced mounting criticism about shifting positions on the carbon tax, balanced budgets, and assault-style firearms in the campaign. Some Conservatives were also frustrated that O'Toole ran in the leadership race as a true blue Tory, but then moved to the centre when he won the job. Today in Parliament, appreciation from both sides of the aisle.
There is a lot we don't agree on for the direction of this country, but he stepped up to serve his country, and I want to thank him for his sacrifice.
I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the work and the sacrifice of the member from Durham.
The priority now for Conservatives, uniting to move on.
I'm looking forward to this fresh start that we now have. We're entering a new era for the Conservative Party.
I think it's time for our party to get reunited and get back on the same page here, and I think you're going to see that.
But some see that as easier said than done.
It's going to be a bloody tough job. Bloody tough job.
Our party could sort of splinter into 1,000 pieces if you're not careful. And I think the caucus is mindful of that, and they're obviously doing a good job of trying to put that stiff upper lip and that gritted teeth determination on to get today.
So with O'Toole's resignation official, the Conservative Party will now launch a leadership race soon. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Here's how people in Aaron O'Toole's Durham riding are reacting to today's news.
You know, examining his performance over the last number of months, how he kind of went back and forth, flip-flopped, I think is a word a lot of people are using, on some key issues, just made him appear maybe not as strong of a leader as he initially seemed to be when he got the helm of the party. I just found it was hard to peg him. Where is he standing on things? And backtracking a little bit with the guns, his stance wasn't clear. That was uninspiring.
It just seems that they've had a lot of turmoil lately, and you'd think that they would settle with it and ride for a while, you know, but because it doesn't make the party look good.
O'Toole saying today he will continue to serve Durham residents as their Member of Parliament. The city's ongoing efforts to remove the record snowfall from January 17th will take even longer, with 15 to 20 centimeters of snow added to the mix over the next few days. Dale Manukduk joins us live now. So, Dale, what's it like out there right now? Rain earlier, snow, or something in between right now?
Well, Dwight, it's still raining out here, and the traffic is moving smoothly northbound on the DVP. I'm sure that drivers are going to have to adjust once the weather changes. Once this rain turns to snow, you're going to see snow plows and salt trucks spring into action. They've been waiting on standby at various strategic locations. The plan is to deal with major arterial roads to the DVP and the Gardner first. That's for streetcar routes and emergency vehicle access. Barbara Gray, the general manager of transportation services, is asking residents to remain patient.
We've been digging out, as everybody has been, across the city. It's a very, very big city. We have lots and lots of roads to get to. As you know, we've moved almost 100,000 tons of snow over the last 2 weeks because of the temperatures. If we didn't move the snow, then the snow stayed where it was. So I appreciate people's frustrations. I know there's been a lot of people that have called.
You may remember that the city put a temporary pause on 311 calls back on January 17th. That will not be the case this time. They are encouraging people to call, and the city will try and get to those problem spots as soon as they can. The good news, Dwight, is that the city believes that they can manage this storm better than the last one. That's because it's spread out over a longer period of time and obviously less snow.
Well, now the city is optimistic. Clearing will go better this time around. But what about the residents you've spoken to? How do they feel about even more snow now coming?
Yeah, it's not just the city that's still dealing with that record 55 centimeters of snow from 2.5 weeks ago. It's been difficult getting around as snow's been removed, and it varies from neighborhood to neighborhood. I spent some time in Parkdale earlier, and here's what those residents had to say.
Well, I like the snow, so I don't mind too much, and I'm not a driver, and I don't have to shovel, so it's okay by me.
When it comes to the snow, I'm pretty good. I'm not like, it's Canada. I can't really complain, you know?
We rely a lot on walk-ins and hopefully just having, the Queen West population come in and stop by. So last time it happened, we didn't have a single soul come in.
So the concerns there different for pedestrians and the businesses that rely on them. They'll be happy to know it's all hands on deck. 600 snow plows, 360 sidewalk plows, 200 salt trucks, and 1,500 personnel ready to go. Dwight.
And sounds like we need them. Thank you, Dale. And Nick, a tale of two reporters with Farah Morelli up in Malton. Looked like it was snowing on her live hit. Then we come downtown over the Gardner to Dale, and it's raining.
And it's still raining. Yeah, exactly. The timing of the system, actually, the transition from snow to rain in the downtown core is shifted a little bit later. So yesterday I was looking at about 4 p.m. It's now shifting over around about 7 p.m. So within about an hour to 2 hours, depending on where you are. And there's a couple aspects to the storm system. Number one is a later shift to snowfall, and we've had milder temperatures. Number two is, as a whole, there's a little bit less in the way of moisture in this system. So we've seen a bit of a shift in the warnings here. Now, for the weather advisory, still 10 to 20 centimeters of snow. We've still got winter storm warnings in effect down around St. Catharines, Niagara, out toward Hamilton, and then snowfall warnings, which is a downgrade from a winter storm warning down towards southwestern Ontario. There's a look at the rain-snow line, and if you zoom in on the city of Toronto, it's really kind of the downtown core south of the 401 where we're looking at rainfall. Otherwise, still sort of snowfall to the north, but it's fairly slow at this point in terms of the accumulations, and that's why we're not seeing a lot of it packed down. There's current temperatures down about 0 right now, so we are looking at that switch over. As we do into the overnight period, we're expecting to see about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow, and then another 5 for tomorrow. Kind of tapers off in the morning, then picks up again through the afternoon, and then by Friday, things are looking actually more or less clear. So little change in the system, Dwight. Overall, we're still expecting to see snowfall, but it'll probably be on the lower end of that initial forecast, about 10 to 15 centimeters.
We'll see you in a bit with an update. Thank you, Nick.
You bet.
The weather update is brought to you by Train. We test, so it runs. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
More than half of Ontario's long-term care homes are in outbreak. That means strict visitor policies with essential caregivers only, all while staffing is down. Some families and experts say long-term care is like a jail cell right now for residents. And as Lorenda Redekop explains, they're demanding changes.
It's one of more than 300 Ontario long-term care homes in outbreak right now. The head of the Family Council says with residents facing isolation requirements, the virus isn't the only problem.
It's heart-wrenching to see what's going on right now for our residents. They're slowly giving up their will to live. They're disengaging. So what we see is residents who are not speaking, residents who are not interested in eating.
Mary Oko says her mother experienced it more than a year ago, isolated for 3 weeks. She quickly declined and could no longer use a walker. Wanda Oko died with advanced dementia last December at age 96. Her daughter feels outbreaks now should be treated differently.
A lot of them have a booster shot. Some of them have had 2 booster shots. They have tested negative. They have shown no symptoms or they're asymptomatic, and they're still locked up in their room.
Up to 2 essential caregivers are allowed in during an outbreak, but no other visitors. And not all residents have caregivers.
I'm seeing many of my residents who are, now losing mobility, losing strength. They're feeling a lot more depressed. They're feeling very sad. And even some residents whom I've seen who are actually asking for medical assistance and dying simply because of the fact that they're socially isolated.
Numbers of staff sick due to COVID is improving, but Dr. Arya believes with shortages, the military should be called in again to homes that need help.
Any home can actually call in the Red Cross. The government can certainly call in the military, but I think we certainly, there are cases, I believe, out there where we actually would benefit.
Dr. Samir Sinha wants residents kept safe and consistency among homes.
There are some homes, for example, that are still kind of going above and beyond the ministry guidance, and I think going overboard, in my view, by actually just limiting everybody to their rooms, not having any activities, or not even allowing people to wander the halls safely.
Today, the minister suggested changes are coming.
I am in the process right now of reviewing the policy with respect to visitors and homes, and I think over the next day or two I'll have a bit more to say on that.
Asked whether the military should be called in again, he says he's confident, with staffing improving, that homes can handle this latest wave. Lorenda Radikop, CBC News, Toronto.
Brampton's mayor criticizing the speed of Ontario's reopening, saying it's time to learn to live with COVID-19 before more businesses are impacted.
I have to say I'm a bit impatient at the snail's pace of the reopening. We have to put COVID-19 in the rearview mirror. We need to get back on our feet as a city. You know, we had 2 beloved small businesses go under in the last week. Aria Restaurant and Heart and Hustle Gym. There are real names and faces to the consequences of lockdowns.
Brown says the city is seeing a dramatic decline in pressure on its hospital system, with 70 COVID patients now in Brampton Civic Hospital. That's a decrease of 40 since last week. 10 patients are in ICU. And the weather already impacting some transit in our city. The TTC shutting down Line 3 of the subway until further notice. Shuttle buses will be running instead between Kennedy and McCowan stations. Next year, the Scarborough RT will close permanently as the Scarborough subway extension is built. And a new report is pushing for alternative solutions to shuttle buses during those years of construction. Talia Ricci has more.
For residents who rely on the Scarborough RT, today's shuttle buses could be a preview of commuting in the coming years.
The shuttle buses actually are, in my experience, are much slower and sometimes actually get stuck in traffic. It is going to affect our lives.
The TTC says the RT wasn't operating today due to the weather, but a new report by a TTC riders group says many residents are not aware that in 2023, Line 3 will close permanently, and they don't want these shuttle buses to stick around.
The vast majority of Scarborough transit users want to transform the decommissioned RT corridor into a rapid busway with green public spaces and dedicated bus lanes.
The long-term plan is the 3-step Scarborough subway extension on the TTC's Line 2. But with the project's completion not expected until 2030, buses would run between Kennedy Station to Scarborough Town Centre for at least 7 years. The report, which also proposes turning elevated portions of the line into a park, says a dedicated busway would reduce travel time and can remain in place to complement service on the subway extension.
Top of the list has been for a long time this idea of a dedicated busway.
The TTC says this is part of its own discussions, but getting the corridor ready for buses will take time.
The challenge we have with that is that we have to remove the infrastructure. We have to remove the rails and the power lines, and then we have to build on-ramps into that right-of-way. So it's not just a matter of closing down the train, the RT train, putting buses in there. It doesn't work like that.
But residents still hope shuttle buses operating the same way they are now are not included in any step of the process.
The subway replacement is just that, a replacement. We need better transit in Scarborough.
The TTC says it's been communicating next year's permanent closure through consultations, but information will ramp up once a plan is in place, which is set to be discussed at an April board meeting. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A bizarre series of events unfolding at Mississauga City Hall. Veteran Councillor Ron Starr has been asked to take a leave of absence while the City Integrity Commissioner investigates his conduct. Now, this happened just hours after a CBC Toronto investigation revealed Starr was suspected of repeatedly vandalizing a vehicle belonging to fellow councillor Karen Ross. Samantha Beattie has more.
After hours in a closed session, Mississauga councillors emerged, voting to ask the city's Integrity Commissioner to investigate allegations against Councillor Ron Starr and called for him to take a leave of absence. It comes hours after another councillor, Karen Raz, said the alleged vandalism and lack of full investigation by city officials was in large part why she quit last month. Over a 2-year period, her vehicle has been keyed 8 times.
I started documenting after the second scratch because at that point I'm like, okay, this isn't a coincidence anymore.
All of the alleged vandalism occurred in a city hall parking lot reserved for council members.
I was always checking my car. You're always looking over your shoulder. It comes down to personal safety. Was this going to escalate? What was next?
Two sources say a newly installed surveillance camera allegedly captured veteran councillor Ron Starr keying the vehicle last April, which was reported to police. Peel Regional Police said in a statement, a thorough investigation was conducted and in consultation with the complainant and the Crown's office, it was determined that no charges would be laid. Instead, the sources say Starr paid $1,250 to repair the damage. CBC Toronto reached out to Starr but has yet to receive a response. Raz says she asked the city's integrity commissioner to investigate the situation last year, but Commissioner Robert Swayze declined, saying it was a police matter. The commissioner declined to comment for this story.
Once I knew I couldn't get any resolution from the integrity commissioner, then I knew that my heart wasn't going to be in this role anymore.
After CBC Toronto published the story online, other female politicians and experts expressed frustration. One Mississauga MP tweeted, "I'm fed up with the intimidation and BS elected officials have to put up with. What happened to Councillor Raz is deplorable."
Safety is the fundamental thing that everyone should experience at work, and when that's not happening, I think that's a massive barrier to more women getting involved in politics.
Raz is now working in the private sector. Samantha Beattie, CBC News, Toronto.
There was another fatal shooting in the GTA last night. This one happened near Markham Road in the 407. York police were called to a residence around 7 p.m. last night. One person was taken to hospital without vital signs and later pronounced dead. Another person was injured, and police say one person has been arrested. Search warrant documents obtained by CBC News shed light on why Toronto police wanted to search the workshop of gunsmith Roger Katanko. The 70-year-old was killed in the raid. Bobby Herstova is following the story and joins us now from Hamilton with more. So, Bobby, let's start with what do these documents tell us?
Dwight, these documents are what Toronto police used to get the search warrant approved by a judge or justice of the peace. So it confirms some of what's already public, but offers more details about why they wanted to search the gunsmith's workshop. So back in 2009, the documents say Katanko legally imported 25 1911 A1 Norinco pistol frames he would turn into working guns. Fast forward to last August, Toronto police say they arrested someone and found a 1911 A1 Norinco pistol. 2 months later, the same thing happened in North Bay. So the documents say someone likely used a milling machine to remove the serial numbers and an engraving with the letters RK on both guns. And when police restored them, they traced back to Katanko. So police say there are also documents that show both of these guns were under his name and were supposed to be in his workshop. So they accuse Katanko of removing the serial numbers and illegally transferring those guns to someone else. The documents say Katanko was a licensed gunsmith who'd been doing things legally for years, but he would have the knowledge and experience to work around the rules if he wanted to. They also point to convictions from 1970, one for the possession of narcotics with the intent of trafficking, and another for the illegal possession of a firearm. All that in mind, they wanted to search for more.
What is the Katanko family now saying about these allegations?
They deny the allegations. They say Katanko followed the rules. He passed all the routine inspections. They say he was experienced enough to know that a milling machine wouldn't be strong or sufficient enough to remove serial numbers off guns. And they have issues with the convictions brought up as well. They say the drug conviction was related to the amount of cannabis he had, and he had no intent of trafficking anything. They also say the gun conviction was because Katanko, when he was 19, built a flintlock pistol that doesn't take bullets. So, Dwight, it would have been like what you'd see in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I think I also heard his brother say that if he had removed those serial numbers, they wouldn't have been able to figure it out because he was that good at what he did. Now, what is next in this case, Bobby?
So Ontario's police watchdog, the SIU, has been investigating this since Katanko died in November. They're set to publish their results in about a month. So that's when we'll find out if the officer who shot Katanko is being charged with a crime. And if he is, it'll be before the courts, Dwight.
Bobby Herstova joining us from Hamilton with this update tonight. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
A sixth day in Ottawa, residents around Parliament Hill are fed up with the noise and disruption, and their anger isn't targeted at just the demonstrators. They say the police aren't doing enough, but now there's been a change in tone from the police. Ashley Burke now with the latest.
Go home! Go home! Some residents have hit their breaking point.
Not going anywhere.
For senior people, it's hard, very hard. For 6 days straight, day and night, non-stop honking. Roads downtown blocked off, businesses shut down, and public anger now aimed at police for not putting an end to it all.
You know, they could prevent them from parking. They could prevent them from entering the city.
I lost my job 3 weeks ago.
Well, I'm losing my sanity because of you guys.
Ottawa police say this is now somewhere between a demonstration and a longer-term effort to occupy the streets. And negotiations are continuing to try and move vehicles out of the downtown core and end this protest.
We are escalating our actions, including enforcement. We're going to do so without unnecessarily escalating greater public safety risks.
Police say there have been 3 arrests and 25 investigations are underway. Even those who block traffic will be charged, they say.
We are arresting, we are charging, we are investigating all bad actors, all criminals. Enforcement will continue. All options are on the table.
Being a coward is not an option.
But truckers and supporters say that even if police do crack down, they're not going anywhere.
They're going to do what they're going to do, but we're still going to hold our ground.
This truck is staying. All these trucks are staying. We have nothing to lose.
Police say that most demonstrators have left the city, and what's left is a highly determined and volatile group of unlawful individuals. And in the end, police might not be able to end this. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, out west, there appears to be some movement at a protest blockade that had closed an important border crossing in Alberta. Coinciding with the Ottawa protest, truckers and others set up a blockade over the weekend, demanding an end to vaccine mandates and other COVID restrictions. Julie Wong with the latest from there.
Truckers near the Coots border crossing in southern Alberta moved towards their vehicles. Some protesters in this blockade say they're opening up one lane of traffic on each side, an act of good faith.
The MLAs are going to be doing a vote this afternoon, and based on the results of that vote, if they don't get what they want, they're going to block it off again.
The blockade has been disrupting traffic and trade for days. Wednesday morning, Coots Mayor Jim Willett described his roughly 250-person village as being boxed in.
Everything that we need is 20 kilometers up the road through the war zone in Milk River. Groceries, pharmacy, medical is all out of reach.
The blocking of the highway, not so good. I don't understand why they have to do that.
The demonstration is linked to a larger protest over vaccine mandates for cross-border truckers.
God gives us freedom, not the government. So we don't need to ask the government for freedom to walk around our country and permission to walk into stores with the vax pass. That is showing segregation.
The Canada Border Services Agency is expanding hours at 2 other crossings in Alberta, a move to relieve some of the backlog at the border. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
The U.S. saying today it won't describe a Russian invasion of Ukraine as imminent because that implies a decision has been made and Vladimir Putin's intentions are still unclear. That comes as the U.S. announced plans to send troops to Eastern Europe to reassure the region and NATO allies. Moscow was quick to call today's deployments unfounded and destructive. Matt Nagrab-Selassie has more.
The Pentagon's press secretary confirming that more U.S. troops will be sent to Eastern Europe. And of that number, about 1,000 of them are already in Germany, but will be redirected to Romania. Then there are about 2,000 troops here in the U.S. that will be sent to Germany and Poland. Now, Kirby, the press secretary, made it clear that no U.S. troops will be sent to Ukraine.
The United States stands shoulder to shoulder with our NATO allies. The current situation demands that we reinforce the deterrent and defensive posture on NATO's eastern flank. These are not permanent moves. They are moves designed to respond to the current security environment. Moreover, these forces are not going to fight in Ukraine. They are going to ensure the robust defense of our NATO allies.
Now, these troops are being sent in without a formal request from NATO, and we heard Kirby defend this decision today, saying that the U.S. is making this call in consultation with NATO allies. He said that Romania has asked for these U.S. troops to be put in place. He also said the U.S. is not alone in this. He said France will be taking similar steps as well. And he said this is all about sending a strong message to Russia, that this is because Russia continues to build up its military presence near Ukraine and in Belarus. We have heard Russia continue to deny any plans to attack Ukraine. And just yesterday, President Vladimir Putin said that the U.S. is trying to lure Russia into a war. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington.
I don't want to mention any names, Nick. Rima, the lineup producer. Your producer friend was questioning your timing today on the snow rain mix and saying, I thought Nick said this time, and it's still raining and snowing, and it's all confused, buddy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? She's not wrong, actually, because we did see that snowfall north of the GTA as expected, but it's been a little bit slower to make its way down into the city of Toronto. Yesterday, I was thinking it would be closer to about 4 p.m. We're now looking at it around now, 7 p.m., give or take an hour, depending on where you are. So a little bit slower to shift its way south, and that's part of the reason why I think we're going to see less in the way of accumulations from what we originally thought. There are still weather advisories in effect for the GTA, 10 to 20 centimeters, but 20 would be on the high end. And if we see that, it's likely going to be out towards sort of the Burlington, Oakville area. There's a look at the rain-snow line at this point. If we zoom in on the GTA or the city of Toronto itself, I mean, this radar here showing that it's now past us, but it's still kind of a mix. We're hovering right around the zero mark at this point. We will switch over, though, and as we do, we're looking at snowfall through the overnight period. Part of the problems with the accumulation, though, is that for the most part, it's going to come fairly slowly. So when we talk about 10 to 15 centimeters of snow, we might not actually realize the full 15, simply because it's going to come at such a slow rate. That being said, locally, we'll see some heavier shots of rainfall where these accumulations could mount up. And in particular, we're talking about the west end of the GTA and then down around Hamilton, down towards St. Catharines, Niagara. Kind of tapers off a little bit for us tomorrow morning, and then another sort of punch of light snowfall tomorrow afternoon before it finally sort of wanes by the time we hit Thursday night into Friday. All told, about 10 to 15 centimeters of snowfall, locally higher amounts, though, especially toward the west end. As we head through Friday night, a few flurries, so that's really about it. So there's a look at the totals that we're expecting at this point, and they have definitely come down from what we were seeing yesterday. The system itself, when you look at the models, generally a little bit drier as well, at least in our area. -2 degrees right now, or rather tonight. It'll sort of hold steady. -2 and falling through the day tomorrow. Watch for winds as well, gusting to 40 kilometers per hour. So wind chills in the minus double digits. Cold end to the week. Sunny weekend. -3 is about as good as it gets. Dwight.
Thank you, Nick.
You bet.
Our Canadian men's soccer team could clinch a berth in the World Cup tonight. It would take a win over El Salvador and some help in the other 3 games. But even if they don't punch their ticket now, the odds of a trip to Qatar are looking very promising. Greg Ross spoke to the parents of one of our Canadian stars about the game tonight and about how far Canadian soccer has come.
When it comes to watching her son play for his country, Ingrid Hoylett admits it's nerve-wracking.
When I watch him, it's like boom, boom. Like I get a heartbeat. It's like, oh my gosh.
Dad tries to play it a little bit cooler.
Actually, I'm more just laid back. The heart may be pounding, but you won't know.
Their son is David Jr. Hoylett, a midfielder for Team Canada. They'll be watching him play tonight from Onyx Bar and Grill, which they also happen to own. They usually get big crowds here for Raptors games and Leaf games, but now the national men's soccer team is quickly becoming a big draw.
What they're doing undefeated so far, I don't think anybody would have expected this. It's above and beyond what we expected.
Junior Hoylett is one of 7 players on Team Canada who grew up in Brampton. David is not surprised.
We tend to have a competitive program, youth program here in Brampton, and the kids, they're real competitive. Before, I used to have a lot of coaches that they weren't really a soccer background. They were just volunteers. But now you have the academies involved. You have more coaches that's actually soccer background.
When he's not wearing the maple leaf, Junior's home club is Reading FC in the English Football League. He's used to seeing big crowds in England, where soccer is #1. But the Canadian men's team has also developed quite a fan base.
After the game, people were waiting to get autographs, they waiting to get pictures. You saw the young kids, and I was like, wow, this is really history, because I've never ever seen it.
A fan base that will only grow if they play in the World Cup for the first time since 1986.
This family will be going to Qatar if Canada's going?
Not if, when.
We will be going to Qatar.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Brampton.
Oh, I hope we see them there. The Canadian Olympic Committee has announced the Flagbearers for the Beijing Winter Games. Women's hockey captain Marie-Philippe Poulin and men's speed skater Charles Hamlin will hoist the maple leaf at the opening ceremony on Friday.
The opening it is very special. It's an honor. It's hard to put into words, but to be honest, our smile, I think, says it all.
Katrina said that we were the flag bearer for Canada. Well, I got a little bit in shock. Got my tears come down a little bit on my cheek.
Hamlin, one of the world's most decorated short track speed skaters, hails from St. Julie, Quebec, and has won 5 Olympic medals. He's tied for Canada's most decorated male Winter Olympian, and hockey captain Marie-Philippe Poulin from Beauceville, Quebec, scored game-winning goals at both the 2010 and 2014 Olympics. Poulin will be competing at her 4th Games. Congratulations. And be sure to catch the opening ceremony this Friday right here on CBC. You can watch it live on CBC Television, CBC Gem, CBC.ca, and the CBC Sports app, all beginning at 6:30 a.m. We will have full coverage of the game starting at 7 a.m. right here on CBC Television. It's time to dust off your green hats and shamrock sunglasses after being canceled for 2 years in a row due to the pandemic. Organizers are planning to bring the Toronto St. Patrick's Parade back to the streets next month.
I have 11 bands, marching bands signed up, and I have a lot of community groups coming out from the Filipino marching bands, Ukrainian marching band. I mean, everybody's coming out. We're going to expect some vibrant colors, which we hope to get out there and have people dancing in the streets.
As they say, everybody's Irish on St. Paddy's Day. Planners say the parade will return this year on Sunday, March 20th, assuming no setbacks in Ontario's reopening. The parade, called Canada's largest Irish event, will begin on Bloor and run down Yonge Street. Organizers are asking for physical distancing and face masks along the 3-kilometer route. A pediatrician at St. Michael's Hospital has amassed almost 50,000 followers on TikTok by sharing health information in both Punjabi and English. We spoke with Dr. Minhas about how he has used his own experiences to engage with high-risk communities.
Communities who are marginalized benefit from having health care and health information given to them by people who have some shared and lived experience. This leads to improved trust, and with that, then improved health outcomes for individuals and for communities. Hi, I'm Dr. Ripu Daman Singh Minhas, and I'm a developmental pediatrician at St. Michael's Hospital, Unity Health Toronto, and I'm the medical lead and founder of Punjabi Kids Health, which is a digital health literacy program for families that are part of the Punjabi diaspora. During the pandemic, it became really clear, especially in my home community in Peel region, that different cultural linguistic communities were participating in the healthcare system and being marginalized in different ways. And so we really wanted to create evidence-based health resources that were accessible for families, and as a pediatrician, it made sense to look at children's health and parenting. And we know that, especially for young parents, they are accessing health information online. We wanted something that was available to them, something that was accessible both from a linguistic standpoint, but also culturally adapted as well.
The
We've got more than 50,000 online community members or followers. We get lots of great questions which help us tailor our content. So that's really something we're trying to do, is make sure it's participatory. So we get questions that help us guide, where should we go with the project? What are topics we should be covering? What are myths we should be trying to debunk?
The COVID-19 vaccine helps our body fight the germs.
Families have ongoing questions around the safety of the vaccine for children, especially around some of the side effects we had been hearing about early on, and then related to that also the long-term impacts as well. So we're trying to share evidence-based information and helping families have the information need to be able to make the right decision for themselves. It's been a huge success over the past year, and it makes us wonder about what this would look like if we were to scale this out to other cultural linguistic communities as well. So we're looking at creating sibling chapters. So we'll be rolling out Tamil Kids Health in the months ahead, and we're looking for funding to be able to do similar sorts of programs for the Black African Caribbean community, the Latinx community, Arabic, and perhaps Cantonese and Mandarin as well.
Good on you, Dr. Minhas. That was a great idea. Okay, as we head to break, let's take a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX closed up 42 points. The Dow also up to 224 points. The dollar trading for 78.88 cents US. Stay with us. We're coming right back. We have an incredible story of survival and resilience. An Ontario woman who endured more than 3 decades of sexual abuse and human trafficking is speaking out, and she's working to help other victims. We're calling her Jane to protect her real identity, and we've also changed her voice. CBC's Katerina Georgieva spoke with her, and a warning, some of the details are disturbing.
She says it feels like she's trying to complete a jigsaw puzzle. Jane has lived through 30 years of sexual abuse, and it has taken even longer to piece it all together. It started at home when she was a toddler, the abusers, her dad, and her uncle. But it didn't stop there. They both trafficked her, selling her for sex to people whose names she will never know.
I get very angry. I get very distraught because of the family connection. Because how do you escape your family?
She is now in her 40s, and to cope with the extreme trauma in her life, she has developed dissociative identity disorder.
It's a coping mechanism that the brain uses in order to survive through extreme trauma. And so what happens is you're separating that memory from your conscious awareness. And the more that happens, the more those other parts develop as actual personalities.
Clinical psychologist José Jarry explains.
It's more that their own personality is fragmented.
And it's meant memories lost, missing puzzle pieces, so much so that Jane didn't realize the full extent of what was happening to her until her 30s. Through therapy, some repressed memories came back to her. That's when she tried to escape her traffickers, but that led to even more violence. So she packed up and fled to Thunder Bay. It wasn't until her father and uncle died years later that she finally felt free. Jane's friend and former therapist says her journey has been remarkable.
I see her as just such a resilient person that I cannot imagine what she had to endure. She is an inspiration because she has come such a long way.
She's still in Thunder Bay with her wife and hasn't been back to Windsor in years. Her focus now? Advocacy about dissociative identity disorder and helping other victims of abuse.
Sometimes it seems when you're in that position that there's no way out. But I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. I have a wonderful life now. It feels free. It feels so fulfilling and just makes me feel like I'm ready to go out and join the world.
Years later, the puzzle in her brain still isn't complete. She says it may never be solved, but she's feeling more whole. Katerina Georgieva, CBC News, Windsor.
We can expect an early end to winter. According to Warrington Willie, the famous rodent provided his Groundhog Day prediction this morning. The mayor of South Bruce Peninsula says Willie did not see his shadow.
It's an early spring.
Oh, wow. Yes, early spring, everybody. You heard it here first from Mayor Janice Jackson and, of course, right from Willie's mouth himself.
Oh, Canada!
According to folklore, that means we can expect improving weather soon. Just don't expect it quite yet. Toronto still has some more snow coming our way. Don't we, Nick?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we're still under that weather advisory for the GTA, about 10 to 20 centimeters of snow. But listen, it's coming a little bit slower to the city, so we're just kind of on that transition line right now. We are seeing the snowflakes falling around the downtown area, but they're still fairly wet, so it's not actually accumulating. And I think that's going to impact the total accumulation that we see. There's a look at kind of the rain-snow line as it shifts southward. Everybody getting into the snow for tonight. By tomorrow morning, about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow, and then another 5 centimeters of snow falling as we move through the next 24 hours. So all told, things kind of clear up by Friday, about 10 to 15 centimeters of snow. There's a look at the next 24.
Thank you. And I took your advice and made some room for the fresh snow coming today.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you, Nick. That's our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Kelda has you covered late night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.